Hello everybody, this is CJ Wiley with More Adventures on the Road. As I put this book together, I'm going back over many gambling matches, and I found that in my life there was like phases of development. And the first phase was in my teenage years, up till about 19, and then 20 to 23, and then basically 24 to 27 when I went on the pro tour and played my first tournament in Toronto, Canada. So I'm going to go through those developments because each of those phases I developed more and more of an understanding of the mental game and developed a physical game that I've described many times, using the touch of inside and triangulating my aiming and starting in a fixed position on all shots. I start from one of two positions. So this is really common sense once you understand it, but it's difficult at first because it's, it conflicts with what most of us have been taught. And most of what we've been taught is to have a nice long follow through on everything, hold the cue real loose, have a level cue, and it's just difficult to play like that and not have a consistent tempo and a consistent place that you're hitting the cue ball. Like Dennis Orcolo told me, I asked him if he favored the inside or the outside of the cue ball. And he said, it depends. If he's playing on new cloth with bigger pockets, he uses the outside and spins the ball as much as he can. But on worn cloth with tight pockets, he cues the ball to the inside like I do and throws everything in slightly. And I think that's probably the best way to play on, gambling type situations, especially if it's humid. You don't want to spin the ball very much. So when I'm using that touch of inside, it just twists the ball slightly so that after contact, it comes off like a knuckleball, like it just floats into position without any after contact spin. So it looks different. And the only way that I could tell that people were doing it was watching the after contact reaction of the ball. I can't really tell by how they cue the ball because it's such a slight, inside target. You can't really differentiate, but you can tell how it comes off of the object ball. So where I started to learn this in my early 20s was in Florida. Strong Arm John had me come down, and I wasn't doing very well. I was living in South Carolina. I was living with my girlfriend and another girl. That part was pretty good, but I couldn't make any money around there. And it was rough. That South Carolina, I traveled with a guy that was basically a stone cold killer, and he was a holdout man, card mechanic, and probably the most dangerous person I've ever been around. And, just a good old boy, he seemed like, but there was a really bad side to him. I asked him one time, what happens if they catch you cheating, at cards? He looked at me and he kind of smiled and he says, that's their problem. They're in a dangerous situation. I'm not. So it almost made my skin cringe when he said that, because I knew what he meant. And he couldn't carry a gun, but he was an expert with a knife and a few other weapons he showed me that you wouldn't really consider weapons at first. But Strong Arm John called me up. I was basically broke and had me fly down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Well, what I did was he spread me in. Spreading someone in means that I played him the first two nights I was there, and I lost quite a bit of money. And when you lose in front of people, their perception of you changes, and a lot of people don't even stop to think that it could be a show. We call it like putting on a lemon or making lemonade or putting on a show. But this was just for people to see. We weren't betting on the side and doing anything, treacherous or anything. We just lost money to each other. And I went into the pool room where everybody was gambling in the Fort Lauderdale area on a certain night. And Strong Arm John knew they'd all be there. And that's where I played him. That's where we put on the show. And it was Academy Award winning show because they still talk about it to this day. Airplane Steve was one of them that was one of the sharpest guys there. And I saw him in Vegas, and he's still talking about how strong it was. We had them all convinced that I wasn't really a good player. So for the next 3 weeks, I stayed around there and played like every day, like 2 or 3, 4 people a day. And I did play some tougher opponents. There was a couple, like Toby Sweet is a really good player. And I did play him. I think he gave me the 8. And after a few games, I told Strong Arm John, I said, if I beat this guy, I'm going to have to show way too much speed. And I didn't think I could beat him anyway. So it wasn't like, that was really just a hanger to beat him out of $1,000. But I'm glad that I didn't, because I went ahead and lost the set. And then that got me even better games, where we could bet higher. It doesn't hurt to lose 1,000 once in a while to be able to win 5 or 10. So that's just a good investment. But one of the other players that I was playing was Tommy Brown. And I played him down in Miami at a place called Peg's Pocket. And it was like a VIP area on the top floor. And that's where we played. And he was a really good player. I couldn't beat him. I never did beat him. But we played, real close to even. So I think I played him 3 times down there. And I think we either broke even or I might have lost a little bit for the most part. But that was a learning experience. Because he played in a real conventional style that I had trouble with. He played slow and precise, and there were several players that were really good tournament players that played like that. And for the longest time, it was very difficult for me to win until I developed that touch of inside style. That changed everything, because then I could hit a consistent speed on my stroke all the time, and I found that was more accurate. I think the most accurate way to hit a pool ball is like a stop shot. Anytime you slow roll balls, it's just not as accurate. And you can't keep in as good a stroke. Like when I'm playing, top level players, I need to be able to come with a lot of tough shots. So when I'm running out, I'm not necessarily trying to make it as easy as I can and just like pitter patter every ball in. I'm trying to use the same stroke. If you're going to be consistent, you need to have everything consistent. So I hit a consistent side of the ball, I get a consistent tempo, consistent speed. I get down on the ball consistently, like I said, from either a center to center or center to edge starting point, and then I triangulate my aiming. So everything is consistent. If there was a whole list of ways I've developed my game, it is to be consistent. And plus, I'm also developing a game that I won't undercut shots. If you've noticed, when you undercut a shot, it feels different than when you overcut one. It feels like you dogged it. I mean, I've undercut balls before where I felt like I got stabbed or something. But when I overcut a shot, it doesn't feel the same. It's just, I missed it, but it doesn't seem to matter as much. Plus, your chances of getting safe and leaving your opponent a tough shot's probably 4 or 5 times better when you overcut it than undercut it. They call it the pro side, but I could talk about several reasons that it's good to develop a game where you overcut the shot. And that's another thing I do with that touch of inside. When I cue it to the inside, the ball cuts a little bit more than what I'm aiming. So I use the 3-part pocket system and favor the inside of the pocket cue it to the inside and try to force it into the center. And if it goes too far, I'll hit the outside of the pocket. That's kind of my bailout area, like they call it in golf. It's the same concept in golf as drawing the ball, fading the ball. You're always trying to play zones to maximize margin of error. So Tommy Brown, I heard he passed away. He had cancer when he was young, and he lost an eye. So he's one of several players that had one eye that played really good. One-Eyed Tony from Kentucky was probably the best known. But Tommy Brown, I guess, whatever he had returned, and he left this earth pretty young, because we were about the same age. And somebody was asking me to talk about him, and like I said, he was a great player, and we played 3 different times in Miami, and I never could beat him. Now, like I said, that was the phase I was in between 20 and 23. I didn't really hit my top phase until around age 27, 28. So anyway, I'm going to outline in my book these phases, and I'm also going to tell some stories on this YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about my fundamentals, techniques, and systems, go to cjwiley.com and like, join, share my information, and I'll keep it coming. Till next time, this is CJ. Talk to you soon.